Last time on Poet Picks, Asia eats a chip. Keir and Kathryn bond over corgi butts. And Keto won't shut up about Naruto. But who will make the top 5? Will it be your favorite show? Probably not. Find out right now on Poet Picks Top 10 Anime.
All right. Y'all ready for the next one?
Well,
Wait,
are
are we
we
at
at
number
We're at number
five
five.
now?
We're at number 5.
Okay,
right?
so we crossed the threshold.
Okay, all right.
With 20, and you can see like all of these are kind of close to each other, but I can tell you right now that the top 3 are like way
Going clear.
ahead of everything else, right?
Okay.
So at number 5 with 25 points, this is a anime that came out in 1992, and that is
I already know what this is.
Yu Yu Hakusho.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was definitely a.
Fair,
That was
fair.
not on my list.
It was not mine either, to be honest.
Yeah,
It was
but
on
it
my
was, and it was high. Everybody who had it high.
That was my number
Yeah,
one.
and I believe it. I think
Mhm.
I get it. Just again, it's like Attack on Titan, right? Like I appreciate all that's good about it, but for some reason it didn't. Ironically, I think it's not formative because it should have been for me,
Right.
but I didn't get into it at that time. Like I saw it much later.
I feel like I had to like pick a lane. Like I was either gonna be like Yu Yu Hakusho or Inuyasha nigga, and
This is something
or
I was
Dragon
gonna
Ball
say.
Z or Dragon Ball Z, and I ended up being a Dragon Ball Z nigga. That's just like what it was. But I appreciated both of those other shows. It's just that was the one. For me. The people that loved it. Let me shut up.
From Jump, like that is the first anime I remember watching.
Mhm.
I remember like the moment Genkai got on screen, I was like, this is who I want to be. I want to be a badass old lady who beats people up and curses them out with like no regard for anybody. Like Genkai to me was like how I feel like a lot of like queer anime fans feel about Yoruichi. That's how I felt about Genkai from Jump. Like I was like, this is my like person. This is who I am. This is my. I'm not gonna say she was like my personality, but like growing up, she might have been like my main personality trait. Like I was Genkai in my head. But like beyond that, I feel like the Dark Tournament arc was like the first time you get one of those like 1v1 tournaments that actually like you wanted to be invested in. And I feel like so many other animes have tried to replicate that and haven't done it as well.
Yes, Dragon Ball Z.
On top of that, like I don't think people give enough credit to all of the arcs post the Dark Tournament. Like there's so much more depth to Yu Yu Hakusho. Togashi's just a wonderful storyteller. And I think he creates amazing characters. Like Karima being a whole ass demon was not on my bucket list when I first watched the show. I was like, oh yeah, he's just a cute, adorable, like pink-haired, like teenager. Who's there to be like another foil to Yusuke, who's like this like bullheaded ass little boy who's dead and came back to life. Yeah, I just think there's so much depth to Yu Yu Hakusho, and I think that so many animes have taken note. I put it really high because every time I think about something that I enjoy in a show that's come out now, Hakusho did it first. So
that's fair. I don't think I watched past the Dark Tournament arc.
Why
I think
are you having opinions on things you didn't finish?
I think
That's what I want to know.
I noticed I didn't give a whole lot of opinions. It's just like it wasn't on my list. I remember because I thought that was the end of the show, and I don't think I ever, because that's the part with the dude with the big
girl
shoulder, with the big shoulder. Yeah, okay. So I thought that was the end of the show. Like I don't think I ever watched past that.
You missed the best arc.
Yeah.
The best arc, which is the Sensui arc. That arc is amazing. Like already for me, I watched Yu Yu Hakusho for the first time ever in 2018. Like I just randomly randomly picked it to watch as a new anime. Like no one recommended it to me. I just saw it and I was like, I'll try this. And I was immediately sucked in, immediately loved it. Like to this day, no anime has knocked it out of like the top spot in my mind. It's so good. It's so perfect. The story is so good. The family, the character arcs. I mean, it's like a lot of what I said about Cowboy Bebop, but different because it's such a different story. And I will say the very first episode is really just a masterclass in storytelling, because in that first episode alone, you get Yusuke's entire character in that one story. And it shows like, yeah, he's given as like this badass delinquent kid, but he's also really sweet and kind. And there's like more depth to him, that he actually gives up his life for someone else. But then he always kind of comes across with this, like, I don't really care what I'm doing. Like, I don't really care about other people, but he does. Like, he's so full of love. He wants family. He's nice and kind, but he comes off like he's a little shit. And it's like, that dichotomy is just like really endearing, because he doesn't think much of himself, but he loves so much. And I think that's what's so great about his characters. He doesn't think much of himself, but he is loved so much. And in the first episode, when he's dead and he sees all the people mourning for him, he's like, I didn't even know people cared about me. Right. And that's like how he's learning throughout the entire series. And then his relationship with Genkai is so beautiful. Like one of the most amazing shows of Yusuke's strength, in my opinion, is after what happens to Genkai happens to Genkai, and he shoots his spirit bomb up into the sky, seeing if it'll reach her. And he's like, you know, he's crying, he's sad, and he's like this big, tough guy, and he's like super ripped and everything. He's like always like, you know, hands ready to eat for everyone, because he's ready to hit anybody, and that's hilarious. But he's like just has such a sensitivity in his soul, which makes him such a beautiful character. And then you've got, you know, Kurama, you've got Hiei, you got Kuwabara. They're all amazing. Even Keiko, like when I first watched it, Keiko kind of got on my nerves. Like she's like, you know, he's like lady love. But even the fact that Yusuke is like this delinquent kid who you think would be a player, he has like this one true love, and she like calls him on his shit at every turn. So it just shows he's such a good guy, even though he doesn't even know it until the very end of the show. Like he's constantly trying to figure out who he is and if he's actually worth all the love he gets from the people around him. And I think it's just a really beautiful thing. Also, Smile Bomb is the best opener song ever for any anime ever. It's so good.
In English and Japanese.
Yes, and they kept it all 4 arcs. And then, like I said, the best arc is with Sensui, because that whole arc is like, what is the gray area? Are people good? Are people bad? Are they worth saving? What is the gray area in humanity? And it's like, really, a shonen anime is gonna just like drop that on you and have you consider like, do people deserve to live? Are they even that worth saving? Are they great? Like, is there a god? We don't know. And they just tackle that straight on. I'm sorry. That's my show forever. Yusuke is my son. I will always defend it. It's like, it's my favorite. It's my favorite show. It's my comfort show. I recommend it to everybody. And it was number 1 on my list. And I'm not mad that it's number 5. I'm glad it's at least on there. Yeah. But I just need you to finish it before you have half-baked opinions.
I didn't say anything.
You didn't say anything rude, but you were kind of like, oh, I don't know, it's not even on my list. Like, of course it's on your list. You didn't finish it. You gotta finish it. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, to be fair, that speech, I honestly did not know that it had all of those layers, and you know what I mean? Like,
I know you did.
Yeah. Oh, word. I feel like I should go watch it now. Like, yeah, or also like, yeah, okay. No, but for real, like, that was dope.
I'm very passionate about it. Guys,
I can tell. Yeah. It matters. This is exactly why it's so great, because it matters. That's why I love nerds. We just like if I love it, listen, you gonna hear me. And no, but for real, I feel that. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else, or is that a mic drop?
I think that's a mic.
That's a mic drop.
That's a mic drop. Time for number 4.
Okay. All right. At number 4, with 28 points, this anime came out in 2005. Some would have a discussion
You're so nervous now
on its status as an anime. But we had a discussion, and we all agreed that we would include it, right? And if it is included, then we were ranking it accordingly. And I made sure that everybody outside of here also knew that, right? Everybody that wasn't here also knew that, like, we are including this one. And that is Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Water. Earth. Fire. Air. Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
That's right. Yes. When you told people outside of the actual podcast, what did they say when you told them?
There was not a single person that thought, besides me and Asia, that thought it was not an anime. Like every single, to be fair, I was shocked by that too. Like some people, I thought that they were going to say something different, but they were like, no, yeah.
But to be fair, a lot of people don't know that it's American. Like a lot of people.
Oh, really?
Think
that's true?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that it's American, and that might be why nobody blinked at it.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
Nobody looks at the credits, homie. Like nobody knows what's going on with these shows. I think if we think about anime purely as like a style or approach to animation, or even just to storytelling, I don't think that you can have a conversation about anime truly without talking about other shows that have used a similar style, like Avatar. And I think Avatar is also one of those anime that got a following quick and held it and ran with it. Like I don't think that there's like, even when we knew that the M. Night Shyamalan movie was going to be abject horror, was total garbage. That one of those things that we have to delete from our memory banks. But like even still, there were like folks who were like, I was one of them. I saw it. Who was like, yeah, if it's Avatar, I have to see it.
Yeah, I waited in line with a bunch of people like that were like cosplayed and all that kind of stuff, and waited to go into the theater and to be
disappointed,
devastated. And it was funny because like my cousin was also like in a theater like in LA, like going into it, and it's like halfway through the thing, and I like text him, I was like, yo, is this trash? And he's like, yeah, oh, this is absolutely trash. What the fuck is going on? It's just like, what is, huh? What?
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
it was so rough for me.
But the show itself is like, I'm like, if it's in there, for me, it was number 3 because it's just perfect.
So I have a question.
It's just perfect.
So like, for the people that put Avatar: The Last Airbender on their list, I did not, because I'm still
I did. It's number 2 for me.
Heard you. For me, it was just like, okay, there's so many other animes that like I enjoy more if I'm talking about an anime category. But I wanted to know, when putting it on your list, did you think about just Avatar: The Last Airbender? Are we thinking about Avatar: The Last Airbender and Legend of Korra as you put it on your list?
I have it all together.
I did have it on my list. I had it specifically as Atla and not as Legend of Korra as well. But I would not be mad if they were put together.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be mad. Yeah.
For me, in my mind, I thought about it all together because like I have this is a controversial take regardless of whether or not you think Atla is an anime, is that I actually think that both of them are equally good, or I would actually just a notch. I'd give Korra just a notch above The Last Airbender.
I would.
Mm-hmm.
I can't completely disagree with that, but a big part of the reason I would put Korra a notch above isn't necessarily anything to do with like the usual things that you grade stories on, but Korasami. How can I say no to a queer couple?
Yeah, or like
in
daytime
one of my
Saturday
favorite-
Nickelodeon cartoon.
Yeah.
That's dread.
Excuse me. Bye fucking Queens for the win. Like I'm there. I'm there for lots of different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that took balls for Nickelodeon to do that.
For sure. And they might have got that episode like on the actual screen had they not the season before straight up killed somebody on screen, and then they had to move it to a like a exclusively, because I was watching it live like on Nickelodeon as it was coming out.
Yeah.
And then they started making it just like a web show because of that scene when Homegirl with the Sparky head was like,
yeah, that was tough
like,
too.
I was sitting there, I was like, oh. I was like,
I remember I was by my brethren's house. I used to go over by him on Saturdays to like watch it with him, my brethren Tevin.
Mm-hmm.
And we were watching it together, and both of us just like got up. We just left. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Bruh.
There's a show for kids on Saturday mornings. When did this happen? Oh God, no,
Yeah,
but
but I
Korra's
mean, like,
too good, and I find
HLA
Korra doesn't get too much.
ATLA, it's about genocide, so it makes sense to me that Korra kind of upped the ante. She's older. It's like post-war world. It makes sense to me. And I will say, like, I think Korra is very good when you don't watch it too closely with ATLA, because if you watch it too closely to Avatar, you're so connected and attached to Aang and everyone. And the way they grew up is kind of sad in Korra. Like finding out Aang was a bad father, like that hurt me.
Yeah.
Not knowing where the hell Sokka was, I'm like, justice for Sokka, please. Like that, if you watch it too closely to Avatar, it's like, it feels like a disservice. But for its own story, it's very, very good. It's a very well written story. Korra is a very good character. But I will say for Avatar, that was really high on my list because it was one of my formative things. Like that was one of the shows that made me realize I wanted to be a writer. Like I was for sure in 8th grade telling people like, I'm going to grow up and move to Burbank and I'm going to write for the Avatar show. And of course it ended like 2 years later, but that was my dream. I was like, that's what I'm going to do with my life. And I was also thinking, Brendon, to your point about filler, every episode in Avatar, ATLA, is important. Nothing is wasted. Every single episode is important, and it has a purpose for every character. Like we get to the end because everything that came before matters.
And when they do a filler, it's Tales of Ba Sing Se, and you're just like,
and it still matters.
I just got wrecked.
Yeah, is that actually filler though? Yes. It's because it still matters. It still has like a foundation for character development.
Yeah.
And then of course Zuko has the most amazing redemption arc anyone has ever seen in modern.
Man, I think one of my, and the way that they do it too, like them dedicating a whole episode to Zuko going through the turmoil when he makes that like shift and how his body like literally reacts to like, yo, you've changed. You've made like a full transition on this person that you are. And like your body's like, what the fuck, bro? And like you have to like just kind of react to that. You know what I mean? Like that takes time. That's not like an immediate thing. And him learning like, how do I be a good guy? Like I'm literally trying to do the right things and I keep fucking up. You know, I love that.
You know what?
And I think too, it's not just a show. You first.
No, I was just going to talk about a fun fact that I always like get a quick laugh at when I think about Avatar The Last Airbender. Is that I don't know if everybody knows this. You know Serena Williams is in Avatar The Last Airbender.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
What?
Serena Williams. Yeah, Serena Williams voices the prison guard that talks to
oh yeah.
Iroh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah, I always think that's so cool.
Ah,
I don't know
it's
why
so
like
good.
that always stuck with me, but I was like, there's something incredibly cool about it.
And also Ozai and Slade have the same voice actor, like Slade from Teen Titans.
Yes.
That's just fun. Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
speaking on the callback to Naruto, because those are the shows that we grew up on, like was Naruto and Dragon Ball Z and all those kind of stuff, and those shows that could not write female characters, like holy shit.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Okay.
Like
I have
Just to slide this in there because you've mentioned it, that's how I ended up formatively Sailor Moon and not one of those others, because they couldn't write female characters.
wow.
And this show, yeah, think about it.
No, that makes
Sailor Moon
sense.
is the same era of the rest. It's the only one where the characters were women. And to be fair, I don't necessarily think that they were well written, right? I mean, I do think that they were. Let me rephrase that. I do think that they were for the most part very well written, especially compared to what was available at the time for people like me. But Asia, you were going to say something, and I interrupted that, I think.
Oh, word. Brain, what were we talking about? Oh, yes, female characters. Personally, it's one of the reasons I love Legend of Korra so much. Like I believe Legend of Korra is like the perfect follow-up for a lot of the reasons that y'all mentioned. Not only because like it's such a well-written character, or like just like the jump from, we think about our like world leaders today, not to get like super serious, think about like revolutionaries, generally like they move from these like revolutionary spaces a lot of times into these more, not, I don't want to say apolitical, but they become less radicalized as they move up in like the power ranks. And I think that you see that with the way like Legend of Korra came about, the way Aang's like position as Avatar manifested, the way I remember watching and be like, Toph was the fucking police? Absolutely not.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
I think like it is very reminiscent of the way like revolutionaries move beyond living through war. Is they have to find themselves, a lot of times you find yourselves in these positions of power and you don't know what to do with it. Like you think about the Hunger Games and how like revolutionaries ended up becoming like part of the oppressing class. And I think that's, I honestly will always say, I think that's why Toph was like off in the woods somewhere, because she was like, you know what? I just established this whole police force of people who metal bend, and I just don't ascribe to that. Like she was so anti-establishment as a child because she was locked up in the house by her rich ass parents that she was like, let me go ahead and dip into the woods and be one with the mud, you know?
Yes.
She even left her children who made this like metal bending utopia, because she's like, it's not an actual utopia, it's just a large metal prison. And so I think like for me, like while it's not on my list, because there are just so many others that like I really really love, both arcs are like vastly different but essential to like storytelling when it comes to the way we think about power, the way we think about like establishment of like countries or bodies of, you know, governing and shit. Yeah, I just really think that's essential.
100%.
No, for sure. And we got to see the things that Aang was good at that we took for granted. Like we got to see Korra actually go through the struggle with those. You know what I mean? Like Aang grew up in a world at war as a very peaceful person. You know what I mean? Like, and he had to become the general, right? And like Asia was saying, like Korra, who is like, you know, at her base, you would see her as a person who would like go for the general, go for the fight. And it's like, no, but she has to learn how to be spiritual and more diplomatic. And those things that came naturally to Aang, she's like, how the fuck do I do that? Like, can't I just, you know, fucking, it's like, no, it doesn't work like that, you know? Yeah.
I also feel like it was really great at following its audience, because all of those folks who grew up and loved Avatar, like it really goes, I guess, to borrow from publishing, it really goes like middle grade into upper middle grade into YA into upper YA. And it does that so like I want to say smoothly, And I do mean smoothly, but obviously like there's that physical time gap, right?
Right.
But like the storytelling process, I think really works well. And two, so many of the folks who had loved Avatar would have been adults too, not just young adults at that time when Korra came out. So it was, I think it was important for it to have some of those heavier aspects to it as well. And like you were saying, Kito, they're such perfect counterparts, Korra and Aang, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Korra takes Aang though, any day of the week.
I'm waiting to see what they do with these future ones because he was 12. You know? And
fair enough.
He was 12 and beat the strongest firebender on the planet at 12.
And like, yeah, you also got this like shift in fighting.
Second strongest.
Fighting becomes like a form of entertainment. And there's much more of like these fast punches and things that you see that Korra is into because she's really into the like 3-man fighting that you get at the beginning of the series.
Right.
And like he's learning from literal masters who have like studied these crafts for years, like centuries. These moves are passed down. Like he's literally going to like the best of the best. And which is not to say Korra didn't. She literally was held up in the like northern like water like tribe, like locked up there by herself learning these things. But I think Aang moved for survival where Korra moved like as an agent of the state.
You also have the dichotomy of Aang being the reluctant leader versus Korra being like, hell yeah, I'm the Avatar, because Aang hid it from all his friends.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to be the Avatar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a it's a hard one too, because like even though Aang leans more into the like spiritual end, I don't know, we don't know that he could do any of the things that we saw Korra do like on the spiritual level. That's like a whole nother thing that he never touched besides like the spirit bending. You know what I mean? Like so that's an interesting
that's a debate by
itself. We'll leave the people to debate that in the comments.
Okay, I got one last question before we move on.
Yeah.
Bloodbending. How do we feel about Korra being so anti-bloodbending? That was my one gripe with the show. I was like, you need to bend these bitches' backs.
I am with you on that one.
I don't know.
I am with you on that one. Because
I'm a pacifist.
You know, you always do. You know how like people are like, "Oh, well, are you a waterbender? Are you a firebender?" And I'm always like, "Bitch, I am a bloodbender because I will fuck you up." Okay, I have a whole ass biology degree and I know how to use it. Imagine if I could bloodbend. I will fuck you up.
I'll say this. I think regardless of what other people think about whether or not Korra should be bloodbending, I felt like Korra I felt like Korra having her own stance about bloodbending felt very clear for her character. Like when
yes, that doesn't make it less annoying.
Yeah, but I mean, well, part of the thing is for me, I think characters should do annoying things. I think that's what does make them.
Which Korra did a lot of.
And I think that's why I like Korra too. Is that Aang, for all intents and purposes, sometimes he's moved duppy, but Aang was always for lack of a better way of saying it, he was a perfect character in the sense that he didn't have his biggest internal flaw was maybe I don't want to murder people.
Yeah.
Korra, on the other hand, she had a lot of like flaws and misbehavior. She was very rash. She was quick to anger, very undisciplined, because she found out that she was the Avatar very young in a world where that didn't actually necessarily mean war and strife. It was just the ability to bend for different elements. Which is cool. And then she meets a couple rebel groups. Has an instance where she loses her powers.
Yeah.
And like all of that kind of makes sense to me. That she would be like, yeah, maybe after experiencing the kind of trauma around my abilities that I have, I don't want to be able to manipulate other people's bodies.
Right.
And I was like, if Korra ended up bloodbending the character that we saw, brother, the next Avatar, well, that's the thing. If the Avatar turns out evil, then what? Yeah? Because if that Korra got bloodbending, pandemonium in the streets.
Yeah.
It would not look good.
Which is where I thought they were going with Unalaq, and I was kind of sad that I didn't get to see that.
And
but,
that would have been exciting, to be fair. But I was like, maybe that's not the story that they want to write.
Right.
Like teenagers.
It's their story. They get to do what they want with it.
Yeah. I don't know. I personally as well, I remember how I felt when Katara did it the first time. I was like, yikes. I get it. And it's super badass, but I don't feel good.
Right.
And I don't think like if there's an issue with bloodbending or not bloodbending. I think the one thing I really, really hated was that Katara made Hama feel bad for bloodbending. And I'm like, Hama was a political prisoner. Sis had to use what was at her disposal. So if she was bloodbending people out here, let her do that, because
Yep.
or you don't police how someone reacts to disrespect.
Wasn't Katara kind of condemning that it was like all this time later and then she was bloodbending innocent people just because they were Fire Nation? That was Katara's issue. I don't think it was her doing what she had to do in prison. It was like now she's a super old lady kidnapping people and hiding them in a cave. So I mean, like
yeah, but even that I kind of get too, is that because the people from the Fire Nation know what the Fire Nation is doing. In a sense, takes a kind of different shape. If you see, I mean, again, I don't want to get too political because that's stuff that's happening in the present day. But what I will say,
in the Fire Nation right now.
If I met people who knew that their homies was doing certain things to people like me, to me, and they were just like passing me straight on the street. Yeah, I think I'd bloodbend those guys too.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Right. I understand why Katara needs to stop her, but I also can look at Hama and be like, yeah, word. I get it. Yeah. I get it for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a good. And
I feel like there's a lot. Exactly. That's a sign of really good writing. And I think that there's a lot to say about recognizing that. And this might be a strange thing to say about Katara, but Katara being able to have that opinion and not think about that in that way was a privilege. That speaks to Katara's privilege. That speaks to our privilege as well, to judge Hama the way in those ways and to decide whether or not we are we understand her versus we prefer, well, we see her the way Katara felt about her, right? Like all of those things I feel like speak to a certain kind of privilege very specifically.
Right. That's real. Okay. We got to move on just for time. We got three more. We got three more.
Oh yeah, okay. We got the top three now.
Top three. So like this is where we get to our biggest gap in points. So like Avatar was 28
before.
Yeah, this one is on 32, right? And it came out in 2019. And that is Demon Slayer.
Of course it is.
110% though.
Let's be real. It goes hard.
That was in fact my number 3.
That's the beginning and the end of the argument.
Deserved.
It goes hard. What else?
100%.
It's pretty much a perfect show, so I'm like no complaints.
Yeah. Like I think we could just I'm not sure that there's a discussion to be had. I think we could just
No. It deserves the spot.
I think literally the very first episode that I watched when he was walking through the snow, I remember my very first thought watching the first scene was, this is the most beautiful anime I've ever seen. Like visually, like in the very first scene, I was like, oh my gosh. And that was before we saw like the water on the sword, and just like I just felt like in that first season, like every episode I was seeing something that I had never seen before. Like what they were doing, the room that was like turning, and he was like
that was
turning.
crazy.
I was like, what? I didn't even know they could do this. You know what I mean? Like, so cool.
Yeah, it's so dope.
I love that so much. That so after the second, was it the second or the third? This is the second one, right?
Second, yeah.
After the second, I was so mad that I would have to wait for the third one. I did not rent. I did not download. I did not go to my local fucking library. I bought with my hard-earned adult money the entire fucking box set of that manga and read it
like
top to bottom in like a week. Less than 3. I think I actually did it all in one day. Because the first ones took me almost no time. But like I knew it was a weekend, and like I got it and I opened it like Friday night into Saturday morning or something like that, and then I read it, and then I was happy on the third day. So like that's how I feel. Yeah, that's how much I loved it.
Please, no spoilers. I'm only watching the anime, please.
She's been teasing me with spoilers. Like when we watched the last season, she's like, do you want to know what happens next? I'm like, no, give me a chance.
No.
Yeah, but I also did tell you I was good.
She wouldn't actually do that. She just wanted to know. She wanted me to remember that she knew.
Yeah, but here's also something else that speaks to how good this anime is, to me at least, is that it's so easy to lose my attention. I know everything that happens, and I still want to watch the anime. I have read the entire manga. And I still can't wait to see more of the anime, even though I already know everything that happens.
Right. They don't.
I got into it in the like weirdest way. Like the first time I heard about Demon Slayer, I'm like, yeah, this shit is not for me. Like people tried to explain what it was, and I was like, yeah, y'all have fun with that. And then I saw a Zenitsu fan cam on TikTok or some shit. And I was like, dog, I need to watch this show. It was just like, it was one of those, you know, like maybe his first fight where like he knocks out. And just the animation alone, I was like, yeah, this is my life now. And it's actually really telling that afterwards.
Favorite character.
Yeah, Zenitsu ended up being my favorite character. Keir got me this. I don't know if you all can see it properly.
Yeah.
He got me a Zenitsu pen holder.
Oh, it's a pen.
It's a pen holder, yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
I think it's so hilarious.
Definitely not my favorite, but I respect him.
Yeah, nah, that's my guy. Because he's like, you know what? Somebody said something really funny on Twitter that stuck with me. Is like, look for the black people in everything. Zenitsu is the black guy in the group. He's like, dog, this is a horror movie. Look who dies first. I'm not supposed to be here. And then he'll go to sleep.
Yeah, then he'll go to sleep.
Yeah. But then he's also the baddest. He's also the most badass guy on the team.
Right. For real. Like, it's just, it's that good. I can't. And I think the fact that even like in the results, like we've kind of all been in like different camps on a lot of things, but like how high it is on the list, given how new it is, like I thought I was giving it a stretch by like putting it in so early, right? Like before it's even done, but I'm like, no, I've seen enough.
Yeah.
I've seen enough.
Like they need to do something really heinous for it to drop off.
He deserves top 3.
Yeah.
For sure.
This actually brings up an interesting question though about like when I started watching anime, started watching anime heavy, I guess.
Yeah.
The top 3 was Naruto, Bleach, One Piece.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, for like especially for younger folks getting into anime for the very first time, that top 3 is very well, with the exception of One Piece, maybe. I think that list is very different.
Yeah.
And I think Demon Slayer is like it's not even a contest. Like Demon Slayer is in the new top 3.
Yeah.
And if it isn't, it should be.
Fiscally, one of the highest grossing animes of all time.
Oh damn! I didn't even know that. That makes sense though. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not surprised.
Yeah, like you hear it, it's like, oh, okay.
I got 2 kimonos right over there. Like I got Tanjiro's. I got Tanjiro's and I got the water dude, man. And the stillness, man. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about.
Two-tone. It moves.
Yes. That one. Oh, can we see the whole thing?
Oh yes. So it's actually reversible. So if you want to not be so loud with your like anime love, but then you reverse it. You got the front.
Got all of them.
All of them. The back.
That's so dope.
That's cool.
Nice.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Golden Ant. They make really good anime pieces. They have a Digimon jacket that I just bought.
Golden Ant.
Yeah, let's just look that up right now. This podcast is over.
Listen, I love it.
We're
Just
shopping
send me the
now.
link, right, babe? Send me the link.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Yeah.
All right.
Top 2.
Number 2. Okay, so remember how Demon Slayer was the first biggest jump from 28 to 32? This one goes from 32 to 41. Okay. Right? Number 2, it has 2 releases in 1999 and 2011.
Okay.
And that is Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I listen. I will admit that for a long time before the pandemic, I didn't get it with the amount of Hunter x Hunter fans there were, but I had the thing where it's like, okay, Keto, just sit down and watch the whole thing. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. It like still like similar to Attack on Titan, where it's like, okay, this didn't necessarily like resonate with me, but I can see all of the reasons why it would weigh heavy like that on so many people. And it's so many people's like introduction. Like a lot of the people that I know that are like newer anime fans, like that hadn't been watching it their whole life, but like kind of got into it more recently. That was the one that got them on,
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing for me, actually, is that like I had a lot of friends of mine who were like big Hunter x Hunter folks. Like I watched a couple episodes with them and I'm like, I respect it. Yeah, I don't think it's for me. Like I never really like got super into it. It wasn't on my list personally. But I'm like, if it made top 5, even if it got number 1, I'd be like, yeah, there are enough people on the planet riding heavy for Hunter x Hunter that I couldn't complain as much, no matter how hard I tried.
Right.
I first saw it in 2020, like because my friend got into it and he was like, you have to watch this. So I did. I was super bored for like the first 2 arcs. They were just really, really slow. But when we got to the Chimera Ants, everything changed. Yeah. Everything changed. Also, I love every character. Like Gon's just a baby. We love him. He's crazy, but we love him. The Killua, that is my son. I love Killua. Also, fun fact, I don't know, you probably already knew this, but the same Togashi who wrote Yu Hakusho wrote Hunter x Hunter.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he wrote both of them. So
married to the creator of Sailor Moon.
Married to the creator, yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So when I
things in the family.
Great. I loved Hakusho first. And then when I saw Hunter x Hunter and learned that he wrote Yu Hakusho, I was like, well, of course I'm gonna love it. And again, like it's one of those things you have to stick with it. It's like what you were saying, Asia, about One Piece, where it's like everything matters. Because like those first two arcs, they're a little slow, they're a little like okay, and then they matter though. Everything builds on top of everything else, so that when you get to the end point, like you're like, I couldn't have missed anything because it wouldn't be the same impact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
it deserves that spot. I think I'm really anxious to see what number one's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm kind of like,
Asia,
what
did
is
you want
number
to
one?
say something?
This is a Killua Zoldyck Stan account. Killua can do no wrong in my eyes. I've already put down a deposit to get my Killua tattoo in a couple months. I cannot wait. Yeah, I think for me, I feel the polar opposite. I feel like the Chimera Ant arc, while it is great, it is wonderful. It's just long as hell.
It is. You're right.
I loved the Greed Island arc.
Yeah.
I also really just love training arcs in general, like when you see those like character growths. And then you get Togashi is like really breaking down like what is Nen? What are all these Nen abilities? It really like, yeah, the hunter exam is like important for like introducing our like core four, but I feel like Nen really gives us an understanding of the world Togashi is trying to build. And so going to the Greed Island arc, you really get an understanding of like how these personality traits translate into power, and how this power manifests itself when we get to the Chimera Ant arc, in the way in which these fighters, these characters like can actually like move in a fight, or while they're at war, on the run, are being hunted, for that matter. Yeah, I get, and it's so crazy to think like the similarities between the characters from Yu Yu Hakusho to Hunter x Hunter. Like I feel like there are so many parallels between Gon and Yusuke. In like them being like, Yusuke is totally an enhancer. Like I get that he has a spirit gun, but in my head I'm like, that man is an enhancer. Through and through. I think that like Kurapika, and then like Kuwabara like have similarities that people don't really see. Not Kurapika. I mean, what is Leorio?
Leorio.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Leorio and Kuwabara have similarities. It's just, for me, I think like Togashi does things very well, and he knows what he does well, and so he's gonna like drive those things home. And yeah, I think like for me, the Greed Island arc, I rewatched the Greed Island arc whenever I'm in a bad mood. I love Bisky. I think she's like if Genkai stayed in her young state all the time, that'd be Bisky. Yeah, I just think Hunter x Hunter is like, if like a lot of y'all said, like if you want an introduction into anime, that's a great place to start.
Yeah,
it is near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. It's funny, like the one part of Hunter x Hunter that a lot of people consider like the best part of the whole show was probably my least favorite part of the show, and that was like the staircase scene, right? Because like first of all, I loved the fact that when, like you were saying, that like when it came to Nen, like they explained everything. Like you will never be lost in Hunter x Hunter. They're gonna tell you what's happening, right? But that was the one scene where I was like, okay, but can we find out what happened? Because I'm like in suspense, and I'm like, I need to know what happens. And you keep explaining this part over and over again, and you're like, yeah, but this is happening in this room, and while that's happening, this is happening in this room. But I'm like, but what happens though?
That is like the most painful part. It's like it's like only 2 minutes of time, like actual time passed in the story.
Right.
So yeah, it's the frustrating part of the arc for me, but it's still my favorite. Chimera Ant. I think the ending of the Chimera Ant arc is just
beautiful.
Yeah. And Netero, it's just it's so good. It's great.
What'd you say, Asia?
I loved Pito, and I think like really to like they humanized Pito at the end, and I was not expecting like I was just ready for like every Chimera Ant to like be these killers, but to be like, no, like they still have these pieces of the humans that were consumed. I was just like, Okay, now we really understand, like, because that's to actually what a chimera is. Like, if you think about blood transfusions and stuff, and you have, sorry, I'm nerding out for a moment. But yeah, I
this
think
is the place.
For me, I think like I lost my thought. My ADHD brain lost it. But yeah, it's great. Gene is still an ancient ass dad. The manga is wonderful. I love Hunter x Hunter so much that I've bought the manga to continue reading now that Togashi is back animating. And I think once we finally get these last chapters as anime, it's gonna like come full circle because we go back to revisiting Kurapika and his story.
What happened? Because I'm just like, my boy just did the most badass shit and then disappeared.
Yeah. But he got his revenge on the spiders, kind of, sort of, which is why he comes back. And that's all I would say because I don't want to spoil things.
Please don't.
Lastly, I just want to say one of the best parts, because I did watch some of Hunter x Hunter dub. I watched the whole thing in sub, but the ending part when it says Kurapika is drowning in an indescribable emptiness, and then the guitar riff starts. My sister and I quote that to each other all the time because it just cracks me up every time. It's like something so devastating, and it's like
that is the best ending song in all of anime. That song right there is
it's good.
It's tied with the one from Samurai Champloo. Those two are
a lot better than Smile Bomb.
What's Smile Bomb from? Am I missing?
You have a show.
My outros.
I'm just saying, Smile Bomb.
I have an unpopular
whatever,
ending.
either way, it's the best. I don't care if it's an intro, not an outro. It's the best.
It's the best. That's the point.
I have a relatively unpopular intro outro take.
Okay.
I think best intro, best outro, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Oh, that's fair.
I think nothing else compares.
That's super fair.
I love that for you.
I know it's not on the list now. I can feel it in my spirit that it's not on the list, and I completely get it because
it could be number one. You don't know that.
There's no way that Evangelion. I was telling you before the podcast started. It's one of those. I love it, but I can't in good conscience recommend it to people. Because either you're watching it because you need therapy, or after you watch it, you're going to need therapy. It's not for everybody. It's not a fun time. You watch Neon Genesis Evangelion because you're not having a good time. But I love it, and it's my thing.
That's great. That's great.
If it's on the list,
and that's why Brendon is in therapy.
Exactly.
I think that's actually one of the coolest things about like this like whole process in general, right? I got like 42 different suggestions of animes, of like different animes, right? And it was just cool to see like some people it's like the stuff that a lot of people had, but like mostly people had like their ones that was their favorite, like high up, like their obscure shit was like, that's mine. And it's up there. It's not just in there. It's up there. And fight me, And I love that. Like just seeing which one everybody like had and what they care about, and like, this matters.
Your favorite wasn't making nobody else's top 10, but I was like, I'm a ride for Oranjo's Club.
And that I've never heard of that.
What?
He's a shonen guy. Yeah, because of some slack.
Okay, all right, okay.
That I appreciate. Yeah, Because
like I heard of it in my shonen era, and I'm like, that's for someone else. I'm sure it's not an
it was absolutely
the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. I'm like, yeah, you'll have fun with that. I'm sure it's great.
Oh, I've seen that.
It's good, I've heard. I've heard.
Okay, so let's go to
number uno.
I am
number one. Y'all ready?
And also scared.
Okay, so we had the biggest gap from 32 to 41. Now we have the next biggest gap from 41 to 55. It was like not even close that this was number one. Everybody had
I
it
have a guess.
in their list except for one person.
I actually don't have a guess at all. I have no idea.
And that is Full Metal.
Yes!
Okay. All right. Yes! Okay.
That was my guess.
Yes.
That was not my guess. I was like,
After
it
we
could go
the other
anyway.
9. No.
I definitely was
all other 9 and we did not hear it once. I was like, it has to be number 1. If it wasn't in the top 3, I would have been upset. And then we got to 3 and 2, and I was like, okay, no, these people have something resembling taste. So it's got to be number 1.
We would have canceled the podcast. We would have been doing something else today. We would have been like, all right, we just like.
If it had not made the top 10 at all, I would have been very angry. But the fact that it is number 1, because it was my number 1, and then it was, and then I had, and then the whole
2.
formative, like. Then it was like my formative 4, formative 5 thing, and then
I do have a question though. Because I just put it like all together, just like how we did like with Avatar: The Last Airbender and everything like that. How many people meant Brotherhood, and how many people meant the original? Because I meant
the original.
Oh, really?
I meant the original.
But it's and really silly. I just haven't seen Brotherhood, and I have like real tense memories of. It's not even that I was ducking Brotherhood. It's just I tried to catch up. I tried to finish My Hero Academia before I tricked myself into thinking I could watch more than one anime at the same time. Already watching that and Demon Slayer. Give me a break, and then afterwards I'll come back to Brotherhood. But I loved the original Full Metal Alchemist.
I also haven't seen Brotherhood. That's not true. I have started and did not, and like stopped because I realized I was not prepared. And then I have ADHD, so I was never prepared.
That's the next thing too.
That's really just really what happened. But I have like every intention of watching it.
But she can't stumble on something about Full Metal too. That's the one anime, the original. It came out weekly. I did not watch it weekly.
Right.
I needed time, dog. I need to pace that shit out. I needed to make sure that I was in good health before I decide to sit down.
That's funny. The first time I watched Full Metal Alchemist, I binge watched that. I did not sleep.
Crime.
I did not sleep.
That's insane.
I watched every single episode. After every single episode, I started to fall asleep and got a headache, and I took headache medicine and stuff and sat down and I kept going. I was glued to that screen, unable to move. Even when I was crying, even when I was like, like, no.
It's actually interesting to me because like and that it also speaks to how good it is that like that we are talking about two different versions of the show, which are very different. You know what I mean? And still people have it on both sides in such high regard, because I don't have the original one that high, and maybe it's because I saw Brotherhood first. And I genuinely think like that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is just the greatest story ever told. Like I just like it's so perfect from start to finish. And y'all, like I told y'all before, I don't fucks with scary shit. And it was probably the first time that I was like, listen, Keto, you just gonna have to be real brave and like grab your pillow and turn all the lights on, and we're just gonna have to watch it because we need to know what happens. And like all of the characters, and it's all of the characters are so like defined and good, and you just sit in the mystery the whole time you're watching it. And then when you feel like you can't take it anymore, then they're like, answers and answers and answers. There is nothing that is left to question, right? Like I felt like when it was done, it's like, okay, I know everything, I got everything, and just like yeah, just emotional and stakes all the way through from episode 1. Like stakes. You don't know what's gonna happen. Like,
isn't Brotherhood supposed to be the one that's like closer to the manga?
Yes.
yeah,
Like,
Brotherhood is the one that's like
Yes.
straight
like,
up on the manga, and then
okay.
Yeah, the other one,
The
I think
original.
they started making the anime and they passed the point
They
which the
passed the
manga
point,
and
they
yeah.
just, you know, they Game of Thrones.
Okay.
They just
I think that
Yeah.
also gives it points for me because I like that it's true to the source material, even though I understand why the first one's not. But I can be like kind of a perfectionist, and I'm just like, well, that's not what happened in the book, so so it gives it extra points for me. And I was kind of the same to you, Kara, where I watched Brotherhood and I finished it in like maybe 3 days, and I spent way too much time on my computer watching it, but I just couldn't stop. It was so good. It was so amazing.
right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't have what it took.
If we got all the way, now boy, if we had gotten all the way to number 1 and nobody had said the FMA was not on this list, I was having a whole riot. There was going to be a whole
list is trash now.
revolution.
Here's the thing, though. I feel
this
like
whole my auntie's whole room would just be a mess because I'd just be like, oh. So yeah, I'm so happy. I'm so happy it made it's that's.
I'm
that
happy
one.
too, but I feel like there are other things that, like, depending on how it shook up. Like, I don't know what the other 4 folks' votes were, but like depending on how it shook up, I feel like there are other things that could have, like, not easily, but like other stuff that for me, if that ended up in number 1, I'd be okay with.
So that concludes our episode of Poet Picks, our top 10 anime. If you agree with our list, you know, or if you have your own list, you can put it like in the comments. Go ahead and let us know what you think. If you disagree with our list, then find your nearest poet and argue with them, because obviously we speak for all poets. That totally makes sense. Just like go find them and just start arguing with them, like, why didn't you have this number 1? You know, do that. And also, like, leave in the comments if there's poets that you want to see talk about other things, or, you know, new topics that you want to see us talk about. Let us know, and we really appreciate y'all. And peace. Yeah.